Hello, and welcome to How to Do Things you probably already know how to do by now. Today's episode is on how to breathe. I've got a simple 3-step method for you. So firstly, you're just going to want to breathe in, and then you're going to want to breathe out, and then you're just going to relax. Don't even worry about it because you've got a central pattern generator that will do it for you. So what exactly are these central pattern generators, or CPGs for short? Well, to explain that, I've got a fairly mediocre analogy for you all. Imagine a generic busy parent who's at home alone with their baby or toddler. In the next hour, the parent has many jobs to do. Online shopping to do, phone calls for work, dinner to make, and most importantly, they've also got to look after and entertain their kid, right? So what do? They whip out the iPad and pop on some Cocomelon, and suddenly, the kid is distracted for hours. In our body, the parent represents the higher centers, the brain, with its many tasks including sensory processing, motor commands, and logical thinking, just to name a few. CPGs, which are the networks of neurons found in the brainstem or spinal cord, take care of producing rhythmic movements such as breathing, walking, swallowing, and even vomiting for the body so the higher centers can focus on their other tasks, rather than constantly voluntarily controlling these movements as well. In this way, the CPGs act like the iPad, which takes care of entertaining the kid. But, like the iPad, the CPG can do much more than just play Cocomelon. And similarly, one CPG is capable of demonstrating many rhythmic movements through the muscles it controls based on sensory feedback and ascending input. For example, the CPG that controls your muscles used in breathing can produce at least 6 observable patterns of breathing that can be adjusted to suit the body's needs. Let's have a closer look at this CPG for breathing. So in order to make its various rhythmic outputs, the neural network of the respiratory CPG, like all CPGs, is complicated. But in general, the respiratory CPG is functionally organized, with neurons that need to fire at the same time having gap junctions between them to facilitate concurrent firing patterns. And neurons that need to fire at alternating intervals use a little trick called reciprocal inhibition, where they inhibit each other, causing one to fire and then the other, but never at the same time. As we mentioned earlier, the respiratory CPG's activity can be modulated by higher centers such as the cerebellum and cortices via the pons, or by peripheral sensory inputs. For example, let's have a look at your respiratory rate during exercise. Your higher centers can choose to adjust the respiratory rate to make you breathe faster or slower to a certain extent, whereas your sensory inputs have an involuntary effect on respiratory rate. For example, respiratory rate is increased in exercise with mechanoreceptor activity for your muscles and with peripheral chemoreceptors detecting decreased pH or increased partial pressure of carbon dioxide. The respiratory CPG acts indirectly via cranial and spinal motor neurons on certain muscles, including your diaphragm, your thoracic muscles, and your abdominal respiratory pump muscles. It is these muscles that facilitate the movements of breathing in and breathing out, with the rhythmic continuous manner by which they do so created by our good friend, the respiratory CPG. To summarise, here's a list of things we've learned today. Unfortunately, we did not learn how to breathe, but we did learn what a CPG is, what they can do, and most importantly, the basics of how respiratory CPGs allow you to inspire and expire without even thinking about it. Cheers for listening in. I hope you enjoyed our video. Here's a little multiple choice question to test your knowledge.